So today I'll be talking about the procedure for taking refuge in the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha, and taking on the basic precepts for a Buddhist meditator. Now, it's important to bear in mind that the ceremony isn't necessary for someone to undertake the practice of meditation, and of course the ceremony is not the important thing. But there are people who have asked about a ceremony and have desired to take the formal precepts and take refuge formally. And personally, I think this is an excellent thing. I'm not pushing it on people, but for those people who are interested, I would encourage this sort of thing, because you have to remember that our mind is very used to dealing with concepts. It's very used to dealing with reactions and emotional reactions to things, and so we are really impressed by these sorts of things. It makes an impression on our minds. When I first started meditating, no one told me. They had us do this ceremony, but it was more like just let's get this over with, and we went and found a monk and did the ceremony, and it was just do it to get it done. But later on in the course, I actually did a ceremony of my own, on my own. I was having a lot of trouble in the practice, and it was of great psychological benefit for me to actually formally go in front of this Buddha, not with anyone's help, not with anyone's encouragement, but just do my own little ceremony and reading through the taking of the refuges. So it's important to understand that this shouldn't be seen as some kind of worship or prayer or trying to get something from the Buddha or from some external being. It's totally for our own psychological benefit. And it is also a form of determination, like a promise to ourselves, like we take these New Year's resolutions or so on. And we don't take this sort of thing seriously enough in modern times, I think. I mean, we make these New Year's resolutions, but I would bet that most people have a hard time keeping them. Now, if your mind is strong, and if you work hard at training the mind, resolutions can have great power on your mind. They can push you in a certain direction and really actually train your mind to think in a certain way and to think positively. People, they say, who think positively get positive things happen to them. This is some people say it's the secret to life. But if you apply this to a spiritual path and say, this is the way I'm going and this is the direction I intend to go in, and reaffirm that in a ceremonial or ritual sort of fashion, it has an effect on the mind. So these aren't just empty rituals. They're meant to have some psychological benefit, to remind us of what's important and to keep us aware and thinking about things that are important. And this is really the essence of the meditation. This is sort of on the basic level, something that keeps us focused on important things. So I'm just going to go through explaining, in this video I'm going to explain the significance and the meaning behind the procedure, and then I'll do another video to actually go over the procedure. But probably if people are interested, we can do live interactive taking of the precepts online, and can also be done in person if we ever have the chance to meet. But this video is just going to be explaining the significance to help people to get ready, so that when the time comes to take the precepts, to take refuge, there's an understanding of what it means, and it's actually meaningful. So the first part of the procedure is it's all just done with chanting in the Pali language, and we use the Pali because it's very exact, and it's the original language that we consider to have been spoken in the time of the Buddha, and it's really a beautiful melodic sort of language. So we use this. It's also a standard in the Buddhist community, so it's not English, it's not this language or that language. all of the countries in the tradition that I follow share this language, and in fact, Buddhism shares either Pali or Sanskrit. It's a basic language that we all share. So wherever you go, you have very similar sorts of words or sorts of phrases. And so for that reason, it's quite useful. It's good if you can learn what the words mean and not have to worry about your individual language, and be able to use this universal language. So the first thing we do is pay respect to the Buddha. This is sort of preliminary to anything we do as Buddhists. So if when you do this in a formal setting, or before a monk gives a talk, they'll often pay respect to the Buddha, just thinking about the Buddha and remembering him, and somehow, paying respect to the fact that this comes from someone else, so that we don't feel egotistical and we're not thinking of it as my teachings, and we're not putting ourselves up as some great teacher. We pay respect to the person whose teaching this is. And we do that by reciting 3 times this form of homage, which is Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. And this you'll find throughout the Buddhist world. And in fact, it contains words that are found also in Hinduism, and just have a general sense of reverence and respect. Namo Tassa. Namo means homage or respect or veneration. So in this case, we're paying homage. So we say, I pay homage, or this is homage to someone. In the same, if you go to India, or if you've ever heard this, the people who have studied Indian traditions will say namaste. Namaste, namas is the same as namo. So when we say namo, we're saying namas, which is paying homage. Tassa means to him, or to that one. And in this context, if you want to put significance on this word, where we are focusing specifically on the Buddha and an enlightened being in this tradition. So we're not saying, it's not what all people consider to be enlightened beings, or enlightened beings in other traditions and other disciplines, or with people who have other beliefs and other ideas of what is the truth. It's specifically along the path that we have in what has come to be called Buddhism. So someone else might say, this is a Buddha. Well, we say, we have an understanding of what is a Buddha. And so that's who we're referring to. We're referring to that one. But simply it just means homage to him or her, or a person who has become a Buddha, or that class of people who have become a Buddha. Namo Tassa. Bhagavato means the Lord. You have to understand where this word comes from. Bhagavato, Bhagavata, Bhagava. Bhagava means someone who has a share, someone who has a portion. So it's pretty easy to see where this came from. In India, it would have referred originally, before it took on a religious significance, to a lord, someone who you paid taxes to. So the farmers would have to pay some kind of share. And so in the same way as the English word Lord came to be used in a religious significance, because this was considered to be someone you put up on high. Anyone that you put up on high, you called Bhagava. It took on in ancient India a religious significance. So in Buddhism, we're just appropriating the word. It's actually something that comes not from Buddhism, but from ancient India, and you'll find it in Hinduism as well, and throughout the religions of India, they will use the word Bhagava. So Bhagavato means to the Lord, or to our leader, you can say. It's just someone who we put on high, and we say this person is to be respected, or this type of person. And this is our preliminary homage of paying respect and having humility in terms of, as I said, not taking this as something of our own, or something that we should feel proud of, or so on. It's something that we have been blessed to have been given by someone else, and so we feel grateful, and we take this as a gift that someone has given to us, or that that has been passed on. Bhagavato, then Arahato, means the Buddha is someone who is to be respected or worthy of respect, who is exalted, I guess, or it's just another way of praising, I guess, someone who is good, someone who is worth this sort of respect. And then the final word, Samma Sambuddhassa, means the Buddha is someone, this person who we're paying respect to is someone who has become perfectly self-enlightened. People who become enlightened are of three types. One type of person comes to understand the basics that are required to let go of everything, but they maybe don't understand everything. They don't know everything. Like they may not know, the nature of the cosmos or so on, but they understand themselves enough to let go of everything. Another class of person is someone who comes to understand, understand these things by themselves. So the first type of person might have teaching or will have teaching and instruction, and requires an enlightened being to pass it on to them. But a second type of person comes to let go of everything by themselves without any help. But they still don't know everything, or they still aren't able to set it up and present it to someone else and to teach. The third type of person, a Samma Sambuddha, is someone who realizes the truth for themselves, but also comes to understand everything and to really understand the way the universe works, and is able therefore to explain the path to someone else. They're able to understand the way for other beings, and actually all beings, to develop the path and to develop themselves spiritually. So they're able to teach it to others. We consider this third type to be quite special, because for all the rest of us, we just follow along what someone else has told us, and therefore we're able to let go and to open ourselves up and to understand the basics of reality. But here we have a special being who was actually able to teach all of these things, to come to understand them for yourselves. And if you ever study the Buddha's teaching, you come to realize what a profound thing it is, and how difficult it would actually be, if not impossible, for most of us to be able to put it together in such a clear and easy to understand manner. So, this is the preliminary that we will do. We'll say this 3 times, Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. After saying that 3 times, then we start to take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So, I'm going to assume that you understand, that the people who are listening to this, watching this, know what the 3 treasures are, the 3 jewels in Buddhism, the 3 valuable things is the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. But basically, briefly, the Buddha is our teacher, the one who passed us on, as I explained. The Dhamma is his teaching, and the Sangha is the people who became enlightened as a result of practicing his teachings, and have therefore passed his teachings on until the present day. So this is what we're taking refuge in, and this is really the core of the ceremony. The precepts will follow that, but the important point, and what many people consider to be the point where you become Buddhist, or you consider yourself to be actually following the Buddha, is when you make this sort of conversion in a sense. But what it means is that you are you have accepted, or you have aligned yourself with the Buddha's teaching, and you believe, hopefully through your practice and through the realizations that you've gained, you take the Buddha's teaching to be the correct path, and you accept that that his teaching is the one for you. So you narrow your scope of practice. You've come to the point where you're not going to pick and choose. It's not a buffet anymore. You know what you want. You know the practice that you want to follow, and that happens to be the teaching of the Buddha. So you've taken a step that maybe many people don't ever come to. So many people might come to practice meditation, but then they go to practice yoga, and they do many things, and they follow therefore many spiritual teachings, and they do it just because this helps, and it just makes me feel good. But for someone who seriously finds something deep and meaningful in the Buddha's teaching, and wants to pursue this to the next level, wants to take this on as a life path, and a path quite possibly for lifetimes to come, they will take this step, and it's meaningful, and it sets you, and it keeps you, gives you encouragement, and keeps you set on the path that you've chosen. So it's a useful thing, and you'll find that it actually gives you encouragement in your practice and helps you to work through difficult situations and to surpass difficulty in your practice. So it's generally a really good thing to do if you've come to that level where you believe that or you see that the Buddha's teaching is for you and you want to follow this. And again, it's not mandatory. It's just something that's of good psychological benefit. So the process is to repeat out loud that you go to the Buddha for refuge, you go to the Dhamma for refuge, you go to the Sangha for refuge, and to do that 3 times. So first you say Buddhang saranang gacchami, then Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Then you say Dutiyampi, which means for a second time. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, which is for a second time. Then you say Tatiyampi, which means for a third time. Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. And this completes the going for refuge. Now, the traditional way of doing this is to repeat after a monk, someone who is trained to lead you through this. So they will say at first, Buddhang saranang gacchami, and then you repeat after them, and so on. Now, the meaning of the words, the Dutiyampi Tatiyampi just means for a second time and for a third time, but Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Buddhang, Dhammang, Sanghang means to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha, the ang at the end, the ng, which is often represented as an m with a dot under it, just as a declension that means to the in this case means to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha. Sarana is an interesting word because it either means refuge or it means, some people translate as reference, but object of recollection. So if you think of how Christians say, what would Jesus do? It's kind of in that vein. It's where you, when you come to a decision that you have to make, you might often put aside your own preference or be wary or temper your own decisions with the things that the Buddha taught. So rather than just, from now on, rather than just following after my desires, I'm going to think of the Buddha. So it's kind of a promise to yourself or a determination in your mind that you're going to give up some of your own desires, attachments, addictions, and in favor of what the Buddha taught. And it may be that even in the beginning you don't, there's a conflict in your mind where you say, I really like this, I really like that, but you say to yourself, no, the Buddha has taught that these things are to my detriment and so on, and so I'm going to take his word, trust him on that, and so on. Or even that they're wrong, but you want to do them anyway, or you do them anyway. You know that they're leading you to addiction and to suffering, but you partake in them anyway. Well, now you say, no, because that's, the Buddha has clearly explained, the method that we should follow, and so I'm going to abstain from that, and so on. This is one aspect of it. Another aspect is just generally thinking of the Buddha before you do anything. What would the Buddha do? And when you realize, or referring back to the Buddha's teaching and keeping it in mind, so that it reminds you that, oh, that's not right to do. Right, I forgot. When you get caught up in addiction, you say, this is clearly against what I know to be the right path. And it means that you study the Dhamma, you study the teachings, and you keep them in mind. So you keep the Buddha in mind as an example, you keep the Dhamma, his teaching, in mind, and you keep the followers of the Buddha in mind. So this is the group that you want to become a part of, the group of people who have given up attachment, who have given up aversion, who have given up delusion, who are acting in line with the truth of reality, and practicing in a way that brings peace and harmony to the world. So, so this is what the sarana means. Saranang means as a refuge or as a object of reference or of recollection, something to keep in mind. It actually comes from the same word as mindfulness. Sati and sarana actually come from the same root, or can be derived from the same root. So it means I will keep in mind the Buddha, his teachings, and the Sangha. But a lot of people like to think of it as a refuge, that you are placing your trust in the Buddha, and you're placing your confidence in his teachings and in the Sangha. So you are you're saying to yourself, you're accepting this, you could say, religious sort of universe, and this is going to be your path, and the people that you respect and look up to, and the teachings that you follow. So this is going to be your refuge, and that's really where the greatest psychological benefit comes for someone who's new to the meditation. It's something that brings great peace and confidence to a person. The idea of belonging. Why some people have told me that they're Buddhists and they don't have a group in their area, so they'll go to church just to feel part of a community and to feel part of the love and compassion and the caring, the community aspect of having a refuge, of having somewhere to go, and people who understand, and people who are kind and empathic, and so on. So I don't think we should we should discard this. I think we should see the significance that as human beings, this fulfills some sort of a need, at least in the beginning. Eventually, the idea is that we can live anywhere and be in any situation and be alone, and eventually we go so much inside that it doesn't really matter where we are. We can be anywhere. We can be alone, or we can be surrounded by hostile people, and we're still at peace with ourselves. But in the beginning, it can be a great help, and I found personally that it was a great help for my practice, and it probably pulled me through my first meditation course, just because I thought to go and do this ceremony on my own. So, and the third word is gacchami. Gacchami means I go. So it's the placing yourself in the care, or in the under the guidance of the Buddha and his teachings and so on. This is taking the step. This is what the word gacchami means. So when you repeat this, you can keep in mind this, the meaning of these things. Once you have said these 3 times, this completes the going to the refuges, or the going to these 3 objects as refuge, or taking the step of becoming a follower of these 3 objects. After that, traditionally, people will begin to undertake the meditation. So the first step in the meditation practice is to give up those things that are going to be contrary to the meditation practice, and those are the 5 abstentions that the Buddha said are the basic of morality. Even if you're not meditating, they're considered to be, according to the Buddha, to be those things that all people should refrain from if they're hoping for spiritual advancement, or even just to maintain their level of clarity of mind. Because by breaking these 5 precepts, or these 5 determinations, that one's mind will become defiled, and it's the opposite of spiritual development. So the 5 rules, for those people who are not aware, are and they're not rules, they're determinations. This is important to understand. We're not taking something that we have to be bound to. We are undertaking these things by ourselves because they're considered training. So the Pali word that we'll say is sikha padang. Pada means item, but sikha means training. Sikha means a training. So it's a training rule, or a training item. One type of training that we're taking. So each one is a sikkhapada, which means a item of training, or something that we train ourselves in. It's a part of our practice. It's something that helps us to develop our mind, and is a part of the development, our spiritual development. So we undertake, first of all, not to kill, because we don't want to be. We value our lives, and the understanding that we have an understanding that it brings distress to other beings, and to kill another being is one of the most disruptive things you can do, because suddenly they've been cut off from the life that they were leading, and the mind has to find a new way to go. It's like rather than dying naturally, they've been cut off, and that's terribly disconcerting. Not to mention painful, fearsome. It's a terrible thing to have to go through, death. And so therefore it's something that defiles our mind. It's something that destroys the harmony, and it sends out these karmic ripples into the universe. It has a visible impact on our universe and on our spiritual advancement. And many people don't see this until it's too late. So we take it as a rule, even if we don't see the problem with killing. I guarantee that eventually you will, once your mind becomes subtle enough to see what you're doing to yourself. One of the great things about keeping this precept and all the precepts is that you bring safety to all beings. Not only are you helping yourself, but the great thing you can think of is suddenly you have brought protection to the whole universe. There is no being now that has to be afraid from you. You have suddenly become declawed. You are no longer a source of danger. You've brought freedom from danger. You've brought safety to the universe. You have given unlimited safety to unlimited number of beings by taking the precepts. It's a gift that you give. This is called abhayadana, which means the gift of not being dangerous, or of having no danger, where people don't have to be afraid of you. Beings don't have to be afraid of you, and you'll see that animals begin to empathize with you and are more keen and are more likely to associate with you. Dogs that you've never met, cats that you've never seen, they're more likely to be attracted to you because they feel the safety and the security. People as well, they will never feel afraid or threatened by you because of your the vibes that you give off. And the confidence that you have based on your stability of mind. And the second one is we undertake not to steal. And so the same thing, where suddenly no one has to be afraid from you, and of course your mind becomes much more stable if you undertake this as a rule. And we take these as rules, The idea is that even though we might want to steal, or it might be somehow to our advantage, and you think, it's not going to hurt the person so much, we take it as a rule. We think, it's just not worth it. More important, they say, you will protect you will give up your belongings to save your body, but we should always think that we'd be better off to give up our body and even our physical well-being, our health, to save our minds, to keep our minds clear. So even at the point of death, it's better off to save your mind and to keep your mind clear. Because dying with a clear mind is a much better thing than living with an unclear mind, living and continuing to defile your mind. So we undertake not to steal, not to cheat, which basically refers to adultery or sexual or romantic activity that causes emotional damage to other people, breaking your promises and so on, or breaking up other people's marriages and relationships. Number 4, we undertake not to lie, because lying is something that distorts reality. It's the only one that really deals with this, the truth, the nature of reality. The other ones are going against what leads to happiness, but this one is actually going against what is real. When you lie to someone, and if they believe you, you've turned reality on its head, so to speak. You've upset the understanding of that being, and you've made them understand something that is false to be true. It's a terribly wicked thing to do, and it causes great harm, and often harm that we don't foresee. They say, "What a tangled web you weave." when first you practice to deceive. It's something that tangles up reality and tangles up our universe. Something that we refrain from doing as a rule. And the fifth one is to not take intoxicants, drugs or alcohol. This one is the most contrary to the meditation practice. I mean, they all are, but this one is most clearly contrary, because that's the only thing that's wrong with it. You could say, well, I can drink alcohol and not hurt anyone, but the point is you're hurting your mind. Your mind is being defiled as you drink, right? Why do we drink often is because it takes away our inhibitions, and we don't have to live with the repercussions of our actions. So, we feel like we can do anything, and so as a result we do say and do things that we wouldn't otherwise. And as a result of simply intoxicating ourselves, we can create a lot of harm and disruption. But no matter what, even the slightest amount of intoxication, one drink, what it does to your mind is removes your ability to analyze and to think clearly and to live with. It allows you to avoid the situation, and it builds up states of delusion and states of avoidance. When you feel this stress and kind of anxiety, it takes the edge off, right? But that edge is what we are trying to deal with, what we're trying to understand. We're not trying to avoid the difficulties in life. We're trying to deal with them, and the only way you can deal with them is to let them be and learn to rise above them, learn to not react to them. So this is something that immediately goes in the opposite direction, towards avoidance, towards repression, and so on, and certainly doesn't make you a better person or make you more better at dealing with the situation. It makes you worse at dealing with them and more inclined towards avoidance and repression. So these are the five rules that we take, the 5 determinations that we take to abstain from. The next thing we're going to do is of course take on a practice, which is the meditation practice. But these are the things. This is the opposite. The things that we have to take out. There's 2 sides. Certain things that we won't do. Certain things that we will do. So this is the first thing we do before we meditate. We take these things out of our lives, and we should feel happy about this. This is something that also brought me great joy. In fact, I remember when I took the precepts and I was reading about how, the significance of it, what you're doing to change your reality. Now, no longer beings have to be afraid. No longer anyone has to be suspicious of you, and no longer you have to feel guilty, because you can feel proud of yourself and comfortable about yourself that you have given these things up. I remember crying at the time, just of such joy and such happiness, because of course I hadn't kept really any of the precepts before I started meditating. So it's something that has great significance and spiritual importance in our practice, for us to be able to take and to keep these precepts. Taking them helps you to keep them, because even if you do break them sometimes, well, you take them again and you renew your vows, and you promise yourself again that you're going to train yourself in this, train yourself out of these things, and use these as a support for your training. So we recite these 5 in Pali as well, and again I'll give the text for it, and I'll try to do a video where we go through the ceremony. But probably in the meantime, I'll just, people who want to do it, we can do it individually over Skype or whatever. The first rule, Panati pata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Panati pata, pana means something that lives, something that breathes. Panati pata means to take away the life of something that lives. Veramani is going to be in all of them. Veramani means the abstention, or I train myself in the abstention from this, from taking life. Panati pata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Samadhiyami, I undertake, or I determine, or I vow, I guess, to to do this, to refrain, veramani, from taking life. Then the second one, adina dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adina dana, adina means something that is not given. Dana, adina means not given. Dana means the thing. So something that is not given, a gift that is not given. I will refrain from taking things that are not given. So in stealing, basically. The third one, kame sumichachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. So in regards to kama, kamesu, in regards to kama, which means sensuality, or in this case sex, romance, lust, michachara. Micha means wrong, chara means behavior. So I will refrain from wrong behavior in regards to sexuality, sensuality, in regards to romance, as I mentioned. So, and specifically the things that we consider to be wrong are those that cause emotional damage to other people, breaking up relationships, adultery, and so on. Number 4, musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Samadhiyami, I undertake to refrain from musawada. Musa means false. Wada means speech, so false speech, speech that is untrue, claiming something to be true that is not actually true, lying. Number 5, sura meraya majjapamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sura is a type of alcohol. Sura meraya. Meraya is another form of alcohol, and it's just the distinction that they had. You could say one would be like beer and wine, and the other one would be hard liquor, like whiskey and vodka and so on, or however the distinction is made. But it refers specifically to anything that creates intoxication. So the sura meraya majja pamadatana. Majja means that makes you that is an intoxicant. So sura is one type of alcohol. Meraya is another type. Majja means anything that is an intoxicant, and specifically those things that are pamadatana. Pamada means they lead to intoxication, or they lead you to lose your ability to catch yourself, your ability to be aware, or your alertness. They make you unalert and unaware, heedless, and so on. Pamada is actually a core doctrine in the Buddha's teaching. So this is why I said this one is directly related to the practice, because the Buddha always emphasized, and his last words were appamadena sampadeta, that we should strive on with appamada. Pamada meaning, as I said, negligence, intoxication, heedlessness, unalertness. Appamada is the opposite. It means not. So we should strive on to bring about this state of alertness, this state of awareness, this state of clarity of mind. So the point being that these things are the opposite. Pamada tana. Tana means a basis, or a foundation, or a support for that there are something that are a basis for us to become intoxicated, for us to become negligent, for us to lose our mindfulness, because appamada is considered to be synonymous with mindfulness. So these things lead to mindlessness. They take away our ability to judge and discriminate between a proper thing to do and an improper thing to do, or the ability to see the true nature of something and to understand it for what it is. So these are the 5 basic precepts. Now, when we undertake a meditation course, we'll take more rules. So people will undertake not to eat in the afternoon, for example. We'll undertake not to engage in entertainment or putafication, and we'll undertake to sleep on the floor. These are and total celibacy during the meditation course. But these those are meditator precepts specifically for when you do an intensive course. In your daily life, it's very important only to keep these 5 rules. And really, when you think about it, it's only 5 rules. If you can live by these, and if this can be your code of ethics, then you've really done a wonderful thing, and it's not that difficult to do. It's not something that is or should be considered impossible. What you may find is that it forces you to change your lifestyle. It forces you to give up some of your old friends, some of your old habits, and to stop going to certain places, your old routines of going to the bar, going to parties, and so on. It'll force you to change, and for the good, really, because it'll force you to seek out those people who are also on a spiritual path and are also interested in their own well-being, who aren't just living their lives recklessly, living for the pleasure of today at the detriment to their spiritual well-being tomorrow and in the future. So it's definitely not a negative thing, and it's something that I think, if you're also practicing meditation, something that brings great joy and happiness to keep these. It shouldn't be done in a way that makes you feel bad and unhappy, though in the beginning that might be the case, and you shouldn't feel upset about that. You shouldn't feel bad that it's difficult to do in the beginning, but you should train yourself to try to see the benefit of these things, and through your practice of meditation to see that actually these things are incredibly important for your spiritual well-being. And that's it. That is basically what many people would call becoming a Buddhist. It's nothing, dramatic. There's no great vows that you have to take. That's it. You take some basic vows of morality, and you make a determination that you're going to follow the Buddha's teaching. And that's it. You have respect for the Buddha and his teachings, and you intend to follow them. So this is, I think, going to be a good guide that'll be useful, so I don't have to say this again and again. People can just refer back to this, and I'll refer people back to this. And for those people who are interested in becoming Buddhists, hopefully there'll be a chance. You can do it on your own. You don't need to be led through it. Many people find that it's more significant to do it with a teacher, in the same way that you might ordain as a monk or a nun. And you'd do that through it. You'd always have someone who ordains you, so to speak. But in a pinch, you can do it on your own, and I'll try to put out a video that allows you to do that, where you can repeat after the video of me saying these things and having you, giving a pause for you to repeat them. I did that when I first started taking the rules. I had some recording, and I played the tape, and I just said the rules, repeated the refuges and the rules by myself, and that was enough. And living on your own, that can be a great empowerment. It's something that brings great encouragement in your practice. As I said, reminds you of good things and keeps you interested and aligned in them. So I hope this has been a benefit. And again, maybe many people will not be interested in this, and that's fine. I'm not going to discriminate between those who do this and those who don't. It's strictly for your benefit. If you think it's something that you're into, and many people are into this sort of thing, then you're welcome to join us in our dedication to this practice. So thanks again for tuning in. Wish you all the best, and hope that everyone, through your practice, you're able to find true peace, happiness, and freedom from suffering. Have a good day.